Victoria Hayes stepped out of her sleek black car, the soft glow of the evening sun casting long shadows across the driveway. The Luxoria Grand stood tall before her, its grand facade gleaming under the fading light. It was one of her proudest achievements, a hotel that symbolized luxury, comfort, and excellence. She had built this chain from scratch, turning it into a global brand respected by travelers and competitors alike. Yet today she wasn't here as the powerful CEO, but simply as Victoria, a woman seeking a quiet place to rest. She pulled her suitcase behind her, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility lift slightly. For once, she wanted to escape the endless meetings, phone calls, and decisions that came with running an empire. Her casual outfit, a pair of dark jeans, a fitted blazer, and comfortable flats, was a rare departure from her usual polished appearance. No designer dresses or perfectly styled hair tonight. Tonight, she just wanted peace. As she entered the lobby, the scent of fresh flowers and polished wood greeted her. Crystal chandeliers hung above, their light reflecting off marble floors. Guests moved about, some chatting quietly, others checking in or out. Everything looked perfect, exactly how she expected it to be. But something felt different, off even, as she approached the front desk. A man stood there, his name tag reading Ryan Carter. He wore a crisp uniform, his posture rigid and professional. His smile was polite but distant, the kind reserved for people he didn't deem important. Victoria cleared her throat softly to catch his attention. When he finally looked up, his eyes flickered over her briefly before returning to his computer screen. "Good evening," Victoria said warmly. "I'd like to check in, please." Ryan glanced at her again, this time taking in her casual attire, his brow furrowed slightly, as if trying to place her somewhere below him on an invisible hierarchy. "Do you have a reservation?" he asked, his tone clipped. Victoria shook her head. "No, I don't, but I'd like to see if there's availability for tonight." He typed something into the computer, his fingers moving quickly. After a moment, he looked back at her, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're fully booked. There are no rooms available." Victoria blinked, surprised. Fully booked? That seemed unlikely. The lobby wasn't crowded, and she knew firsthand how many rooms the Luxoria Grand had. Still, she decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. "Are you sure? Could you double-check?" Ryan hesitated for a split second before nodding curtly. "Of course." He tapped a few more keys, then shook his head. "Still nothing. I apologize, but we can't accommodate you." Victoria tilted, her head, studying him closely. Something about his demeanor didn't sit right with her. "That's odd," she said slowly. "This is my hotel. Surely there must be some room available." Ryan froze, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. For a brief moment, confusion flashed across his face, then realization dawned, followed swiftly by disbelief. "Your hotel?" he repeated, his voice laced with skepticism. "Yes," Victoria replied calmly. "My name is Victoria Hayes. I own Luxoria Hotels and Resorts." Instead of apologizing or scrambling to rectify the situation, Ryan's lips curled into a faint smirk. He leaned back slightly, crossing his arms over his chest. "Right," he said, dragging out the word. "And I suppose you expect me to believe that?" Victoria frowned, her patience beginning to waver. "You can verify it if you need to. My ID should suffice." She reached into her bag and pulled out her driver's license, sliding it across the counter toward him. Ryan picked it up reluctantly, glancing at it before turning it around for closer inspection. Sure enough, the name matched the logo emblazoned on everything from the hotel's towels to its business cards. But instead of reacting with the appropriate shock or embarrassment, Ryan's expression hardened. "Well," he said, handing the ID back to her. "Even if that's true, policy is policy. We can't make exceptions, not even for owners." His tone carried a subtle edge, the kind that suggested he didn't quite believe her, or worse, that he didn't care. Victoria stared at him incredulous. Was he serious? Did he really think she would fabricate such a claim? Before she could respond, A young woman appeared beside Ryan. Her name tag read Lisa Moore, and her wide eyes darted nervously between Victoria and Ryan. "Is everything okay here?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ryan waved a dismissive hand. "Everything's fine. This guest was just leaving." Victoria clenched her jaw, anger simmering beneath the surface. She hadn't expected a warm welcome, but this outright dismissal was infuriating. Still, she refused to lose her composure. Instead, she grabbed her suitcase and stepped away from the desk, her movements deliberate and measured. As she walked toward the exit, she couldn't help but overhear Ryan's voice carrying through the lobby. "Can you believe that?" he muttered to Lisa, loud enough for Victoria to hear. "Some people will say anything to get what they want. Pathetic." The words hit her like a slap. Pathetic? She had poured her heart and soul into building this company, overcoming countless obstacles along the way. And now here was this man, this insignificant cog in the machine she had created, calling her pathetic. For a moment, Victoria considered turning around and confronting him. She could demand his resignation on the spot, tear him down publicly for his insolence. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the flicker of fear in Lisa's eyes when she glanced at Ryan. Or maybe it was the realization that this incident revealed a deeper issue, one that went beyond a single rude employee. Whatever the reason, Victoria kept walking. She exited the hotel, the cool evening air brushing against her skin. As she climbed back into her car, she allowed herself a small, bitter laugh. They thought she was powerless, just another faceless guest unworthy of their time. Little did they know. They had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Starting the engine, Victoria drove away, her mind already racing with plans. If Ryan and his colleagues wanted to play games, she would show them exactly who they were dealing with. By the time she was done, they wouldn't just regret refusing her a room. They would wish they had never crossed paths with Victoria Hayes. The next morning, Victoria sat in her penthouse office overlooking New York City. The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the room in golden light. Her desk was neat and organized, a reflection of her disciplined mind. But today, her thoughts were anything but calm. The memory of Ryan's smug face played over and over in her mind, each replay fueling her determination. She opened her laptop and pulled up the files for the Luxoria Grand. Every detail about the hotel was there, its financial records, employee evaluations, guest feedback, and more. As she scrolled through the documents, her fingers paused on the staff directory. Ryan Carter's name stood out, along with his position as hotel manager. She clicked on his profile, skimming through his qualifications and performance reviews. On paper, he seemed competent enough, but the glowing remarks from upper management felt hollow now. Clearly, they hadn't seen what she had. Her phone buzzed on the desk, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Marcus Lee, her trusted operations director. Marcus had been with her since the early days of Luxoria Hotels and Resorts, and he knew her almost as well as she knew herself. He was loyal, sharp, and always ready to tackle challenges head-on. "Good morning, Marcus," Victoria said, answering the call. "I hope you're ready for some work." Marcus chuckled on the other end. "Morning, Victoria. You know I'm always ready. What's on your mind?" "I need you to come to my office," she replied. "There's something we need to discuss." 20 minutes later, Marcus arrived, carrying a tablet and a notepad. He took a seat across from her, his expression curious but serious. "What's going on?" he asked. Victoria leaned back in her chair, folding her hands in her lap. "Last night, I visited the Luxoria Grand. I wanted to check in without announcing myself just to see how things were running." Marcus nodded. "That's smart. Did everything go smoothly?" Victoria let out a dry laugh. "Not exactly. The manager, Ryan Carter, refused to give me a room. He claimed the hotel was fully booked, even though I know it wasn't. And when I told him who I was, he didn't believe me, or maybe he did, but he still dismissed me like I was nobody." Marcus frowned, his brow furrowing. "Wait, are you saying he turned you away? Even after you showed him your ID?" "Yes," Victoria confirmed. "He acted like I was lying or trying to pull some kind of stunt. And then, to make matters worse, I heard him mocking me behind my back. Marcus shook his head, disbelief written all over his face. That's unbelievable. What an idiot. Do you want me to fire him right now? No, Victoria said firmly. Not yet. This isn't just about Ryan. It's about the culture at the Luxoria Grand, and maybe at other hotels too. If someone like Ryan feels comfortable treating the owner this way, imagine how he treats regular guests or employees who don't have power. We need to dig deeper and figure out what's really going on. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding, dawning in his eyes. You're right. So, what's the plan? Victoria smiled faintly, a spark of mischief lighting up her expression. We're going undercover. I'll announce that I'll be personally overseeing operations at the Luxoria Grand for 2 weeks. No one will know it's because of what happened last night. While I'm there, I'll observe everything. The staff, the guests, the day-to-day operations. And if anyone steps out of line, we'll catch them red-handed. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Undercover? You mean, you won't tell them who you are? Exactly, Victoria said. They already think I'm just another guest. Let's keep it that way for now. In the meantime, I want you to set up cameras and audio recorders in key areas of the hotel. Not illegally, of course. We'll frame it as part of a routine security upgrade. That way, we'll have evidence of any wrongdoing. Marcus grinned, clearly impressed. This is going to be good. They won't know what hit them. Later that afternoon, Victoria sent out a company-wide email announcing her decision to conduct a surprise audit at the Luxoria Grand. She framed it as a proactive measure to ensure the highest standards of service and hospitality. To avoid raising suspicion, she kept the message vague, simply stating that she would be working closely with the staff during her visit. When Ryan received the email, his stomach dropped. He reread it twice, his mind racing. He hadn't recognized Victoria the night before, but now the pieces were starting to come together. Could it be the same woman? If so, he was in serious trouble. Lisa noticed his unease and approached him, cautiously. Hey, Ryan, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Ryan forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow even to his own ears. Logan, I'm fine, he said quickly. Just thinking about this audit thing. It's probably nothing, but you never know with these corporate types. Lisa nodded sympathetically. Yeah, I guess we should prepare ourselves. Maybe brush up on the policies or something. Ryan nodded absently, his mind elsewhere. He needed to figure out a way to cover his tracks. If it really was Victoria Hayes who had shown up last night, he couldn't afford to let her find out what he'd done. 2 days later, Victoria returned to the Luxoria Grand. This time, she arrived during the busy morning rush, blending in seamlessly with the crowd. Dressed in tailored slacks and a simple blouse, she carried a leather portfolio instead of a suitcase. Her demeanor was professional, yet unassuming, designed to make people overlook her presence. At the front desk, Lisa greeted her with a warm smile. Good morning. How can I assist you today? Hi, I'm here for the audit, Victoria said, keeping her tone neutral. My name's Victoria. I'll be observing operations for the next couple of weeks. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. Oh, of course, welcome, Miss Victoria. Let me get Ryan, he'll show you around. Before Victoria could protest, Lisa disappeared into the back office. Moments later, Ryan emerged, his expression carefully neutral. Ms. Victoria, he said, extending a hand. Welcome to the Luxoria Grand. I'm Ryan, the hotel manager. Victoria shook his hand briefly, meeting his gaze steadily. Nice to meet you, Ryan. I appreciate you taking the time to guide me through everything. Ryan nodded stiffly, leading her toward the elevators. As they walked, he rattled off information about the hotel's layout, amenities, and daily routines. Victoria listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and jotting down notes in her portfolio. Despite his outward composure, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching him closely. Over the next few days, Victoria immersed herself in the hotel's operations. She shadowed housekeeping staff, assisted concierge teams, and even helped serve meals in the restaurant. Along The way, she made mental notes of both positive interactions and troubling behaviors. Some employees went above and beyond to help guests while others treated them with indifference, or worse, hostility. One evening, Victoria found herself in the break room with Lisa. The younger woman seemed eager to impress, often volunteering to assist with tasks outside her usual duties. They chatted casually, and Victoria sensed an opportunity to learn more about the inner workings of the hotel. "How long have you worked here, Lisa?" Victoria asked. "About 3 years," Lisa replied. "I started as a receptionist, but I've been promoted a few times since then." "That's impressive," Victoria said sincerely. "Do you enjoy it?" Lisa hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. "Most of the time, yes, but sometimes, well, it can be tough. There's a lot of pressure to perform, especially from people like Ryan. He doesn't always treat everyone fairly, you know?" Victoria nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Can you give me an example?" Lisa bit her lip, weighing her words carefully. "There was this one incident a few months ago. A guest complained about their room and Ryan blamed the cleaning staff, even though it wasn't their fault. He yelled at them in front of everyone, and it was really humiliating." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. "Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. I'll look into it." As the conversation ended, Victoria felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Luxoria Grand might look perfect on the surface, but beneath the polished veneer lay cracks that needed fixing, and she was determined to expose every single one of them. By the third day of her undercover visit, Victoria had already uncovered several troubling patterns at the Luxoria Grand. The more she observed, the clearer it became that Ryan's behavior was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger problem. Employees whispered about favoritism, guests complained about inconsistent service, and behind closed doors, tensions simmered among the staff. One morning, as Victoria followed Lisa around the lobby, she noticed how Ryan interacted with different people. When wealthy clients walked in, especially those who appeared white or dressed in expensive suits, he greeted them warmly, offering upgrades to suites or complimentary champagne. But when minority guests arrived, his tone shifted. He became curt, dismissive, almost robotic. It was subtle enough that most wouldn't notice unless they were paying close attention. But Victoria saw it all. During lunch, Victoria decided to test Ryan herself. She approached him while he was reviewing schedules at the front desk. "Excuse me, Ryan," she said politely. "I overheard one of our guests mention they're unhappy with their room. Could you help me understand how we handle complaints like this?" Ryan looked up, his expression guarded. "Of course," he replied stiffly. "We always try to resolve issues quickly and professionally." Victoria nodded. "That's good to hear. Let's say someone requests a room change because of noise. What's the protocol?" Ryan hesitated for a moment before answering. "Well, it depends on availability. If there's another room free, we'll move them. But if not," he shrugged. "Sometimes these things can't be helped." Victoria tilted her head slightly, pretending to consider his response. "Interesting. So does availability ever depend on the guest? Like, would you prioritize moving certain guests over others?" Ryan stiffened, clearly uncomfortable with where the conversation was heading. "No, absolutely not," he said firmly. "Every guest is treated equally here." Victoria smiled faintly but didn't push further. She didn't need to. Over the next hour, she watched as 2 separate guests complained about similar problems. One a middle-aged white businessman, and the other a young black couple. Ryan handled them completely differently. The businessman received an immediate apology, a room upgrade, and a voucher for dinner. The couple, however, were told they'd have to wait until housekeeping finished cleaning the available rooms, a process that could take hours. Later that afternoon, Victoria pulled Lisa aside. They were standing near the elevators, away from prying ears. "Lisa," Victoria began softly, "do you think Ryan treats everyone fairly?" Lisa glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. "Honestly, no. He's nice to some people and rude to others. I've seen it happen so many times. Guests who look rich or important get special treatment, while others are ignored or brushed off. Victoria nodded, encouraging her to continue. Does anyone speak up about it? Lisa shook her head. Not really. People are scared of losing their jobs. Ryan has a lot of influence here and he's not afraid to use it. Victoria's jaw tightened. She hated hearing stories like this, especially in a place she had worked so hard to build. But instead of showing anger, she kept her tone calm and reassuring. Thank you for telling me, Lisa. I promise things are going to change. As the week progressed, Victoria dug deeper into the hotel's operations. With Marcus's help, she reviewed security footage and audio recordings from key areas of the hotel. What she found confirmed her suspicions. Ryan wasn't just biased, he was actively undermining employees who didn't fit his idea of ideal workers. Younger staff members, women, and minorities bore the brunt of his hostility. In one recording, he berated a housekeeper named Maria for taking too long to clean a room, even though she had been dealing with a plumbing issue that required maintenance. Victoria also discovered discrepancies in the hotel's finances. Certain expenses seemed inflated, particularly those related to supplies and repairs. When she cross-referenced invoices with inventory logs, it became clear that someone was siphoning money off the top. And given Ryan's position, he was likely involved. Determined to gather concrete evidence, Victoria spent her evenings poring over documents in her suite. She stayed up late, piecing together timelines and connecting dots. By the end of the week, she had a detailed file outlining Ryan's misconduct, including discriminatory practices, financial mismanagement, and toxic leadership. On Saturday morning, Victoria called a meeting with the hotel's senior management team. She invited Ryan, Lisa, and several department heads to join her in the conference room. As they filed in, Ryan looked uneasy, his usual confidence replaced by nervous fidgeting. Lisa, on the other hand, seemed hopeful, glancing at Victoria with quiet anticipation. Once everyone was seated, Victoria stood at the head of the table. Her demeanor was calm but authoritative, commanding attention without raising her voice. Thank you all for coming, she began. Over the past few days, I've been conducting an audit of the Luxoria Grand's operations. My goal was to identify areas where we can improve efficiency, service quality, and overall guest satisfaction. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. Unfortunately, what I've found is deeply concerning. There are significant issues within this hotel that cannot be ignored. Discrimination, favoritism, and even theft have been allowed to fester unchecked. This is unacceptable, not only as a violation of company policy but as a betrayal of everything Luxoria Hotels and Resorts stands for. The room fell silent, tension thick in the air. Ryan shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding eye contact. Some of the other managers exchanged worried glances, while Lisa sat perfectly still, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Victoria opened the folder in front of her and removed a stack of printed documents. Let's start with discrimination. Multiple guests and employees have reported instances of unequal treatment based on race, gender, and socioeconomic status. For example, last week, a guest requested a room change due to noise. Despite having availability, Ryan denied the request because the guest did not meet his personal criteria for importance. She slid a transcript of the recorded interaction across the table. This isn't speculation, it's fact. And it's not the only case. Next, she addressed the financial discrepancies. In addition to discriminatory practices, I've uncovered evidence of embezzlement. Certain expenses have been deliberately inflated to cover up missing funds. Again, this is not speculation. These invoices and inventory logs prove beyond doubt that money has been stolen from this hotel. Finally, she turned her attention to leadership. Ryan, your behavior as manager has created a toxic environment. You belittle employees, ignore valid concerns, and prioritize your own interests over the success of this hotel. Your actions have damaged morale, alienated guests, and tarnished the reputation of Luxoria Hotels and Resorts. Ryan finally spoke, his voice trembling. Look, I admit I may have made mistakes, but Victoria cut him off sharply. Mistakes? This isn't a mistake. This is a pattern of deliberate misconduct. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties as hotel manager. Gasps rippled through the room. Ryan stared at her, stunned. You can't do this, he protested. I've worked here for years. I can and I am, Victoria replied coolly. Security will escort you out of the building. Any further discussion will take place through legal channels. With that, she signaled for 2 security guards waiting outside the door. They entered silently, flanking Ryan as he reluctantly stood up. For a moment, he looked like he might argue, but then he thought better of it and left without another word. Once Ryan was gone, Victoria turned back to the group. Now, let's talk about moving forward. Lisa, I'd like you to step into the role of interim manager. You've shown integrity and dedication during my time here, and I believe you're ready for this responsibility. Lisa's eyes widened in shock. Me? Are you sure? Victoria smiled warmly. Absolutely. You have my full support, and Marcus will assist you in implementing new policies to ensure fairness and transparency. Together, we're going to rebuild trust and create a culture of respect and excellence. As the meeting concluded, Lisa felt a surge of gratitude and determination. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Victoria's guidance, she was ready to rise to the challenge. Meanwhile, Victoria returned to her office, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Justice had been served, but the real work was just beginning. The days following Ryan's dismissal were a whirlwind of activity at the Luxoria Grand. Lisa Moore, now interim manager, worked tirelessly to implement the changes Victoria had outlined. Under Victoria's watchful eye, the hotel underwent a transformation, not just in its operations but in its culture. Employees who had once feared speaking up began to share their ideas and concerns openly. Guests noticed the shift too, commenting on the improved service and friendlier atmosphere. One of Lisa's first actions was to hold a staff meeting. She gathered everyone in the hotel's conference room, standing at the front with a nervous smile. I know things have been tough around here, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, but we have a chance to make things better. Starting today, we're going to focus on fairness, respect, and teamwork. She went on to explain the new policies Victoria had introduced. Discrimination of any kind would no longer be tolerated, and employees were encouraged to report any incidents they witnessed. Promotions would be based solely on merit, not favoritism. To ensure transparency, all financial records would be reviewed monthly by an independent auditor. Finally, Lisa announced that training sessions would be held to teach staff how to handle difficult situations with professionalism and empathy. The response from the team was overwhelmingly positive. Many employees expressed relief that someone was finally addressing the problems they had endured for so long. Maria, the housekeeper who had been unfairly criticized by Ryan, approached Lisa after the meeting. Thank you for doing this, she said softly. It means a lot to us. Lisa smiled warmly. We're all in this together, Maria. If anyone gives you trouble, come straight to me or Victoria. We've got your back. Meanwhile, Victoria continued to monitor the situation closely. She spent hours each day walking through the hotel, observing interactions between staff and guests. Her presence alone seemed to inspire confidence. Employees who had once avoided eye contact now greeted her with smiles, eager to prove themselves under her leadership. Even guests seemed more relaxed, as if they could sense the positive energy in the air. During one of her rounds, Victoria stopped by the concierge desk, where a young man named Daniel was assisting a family with their travel plans. Daniel had recently transferred from another Luxoria property, and Victoria had noticed his dedication right away. He listened carefully to the family's needs, offering thoughtful suggestions and ensuring they felt valued. When the interaction ended, Victoria stepped forward. Great job, Daniel, she said, nodding approvingly. You handled that perfectly. Daniel looked surprised but pleased. Thank you, Ms. Victoria. I just try to treat every guest the way I'd want to be treated. Victoria smiled. That's exactly the attitude we need. Keep it up. As she walked away, she made a mental note to recommend Daniel for a promotion. It was moments like these that reminded her why she had started Luxoria Hotels and Resorts. In the first place, to create spaces where people felt welcome and cared for. Despite the progress, not everything went smoothly. Some employees struggled to adapt to the new environment. A few senior staff members loyal to Ryan grumbled about the changes, claiming they were unnecessary. One of them, a man named Greg, even confronted Lisa during a shift change. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, glaring at her. "You think you can just walk in here and change everything? You don't know what you're doing." Lisa took a deep breath, keeping her tone calm but firm. "Greg, I understand you're upset, but these changes are happening whether you like it or not. If you can't get on board, maybe this isn't the right place for you." Greg clenched his jaw but didn't argue further. Over the next few days, his behavior improved slightly, though he remained resistant to the new policies. Victoria kept a close eye on him, knowing that some attitudes would take longer to change than others. In addition to addressing internal issues, Victoria also focused on improving the guest experience. She introduced a feedback system that allowed visitors to rate their stay anonymously. Every comment, positive or negative, was taken seriously and used to refine the hotel's services. Small touches, like handwritten thank you notes left in rooms and complimentary snacks for late arrivals, made a big difference. Word of mouth spread quickly, and soon the Luxoria Grand was receiving glowing reviews online. One evening, as Victoria sat in her suite reviewing recent feedback, she came across a particularly heartwarming message. A guest named Karen wrote, "I've stayed at many hotels, but none have made me feel as welcome as the Luxoria Grand. From the moment I arrived, every staff member went out of their way to ensure my comfort. Thank you for such an unforgettable experience." Victoria read the note several times, feeling a swell of pride. This was what she had always dreamed of, a hotel that truly lived up to its promise of luxury and hospitality. As the 2-week audit period drew to a close, Victoria called another meeting with the senior management team. This time, the mood was lighter, filled with optimism rather than tension. Lisa led the discussion, presenting updates on the changes they had implemented. Employee morale was up, guest satisfaction scores had skyrocketed, and financial discrepancies were being addressed systematically. When it was Victoria's turn to speak, she stood and looked around the room, her expression warm but serious. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished in such a short time," she said. "But let's not forget that this is only the beginning. Building a culture of respect and excellence takes effort every single day. It's not something we achieve once and then move on from. It's a commitment." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Lisa has done an incredible job stepping into her new role, and I have no doubt she'll continue to lead this team with integrity. As for me, I'll still be checking in regularly to ensure we stay on track. Together we're going to set a standard for the entire industry." The room erupted in applause, with Lisa blushing modestly at the praise. For the first time in years, the Luxoria Grand felt like a place where everyone belonged. Not just the wealthy or privileged, but anyone seeking comfort and care. After the meeting, Victoria returned to her office, exhausted but fulfilled. She gazed out the window at the bustling city below, reflecting on everything that had happened. The incident with Ryan had been painful, yes, but it had also been a catalyst for growth. By confronting the problem head-on, she had not only exposed the truth but inspired meaningful change. As she packed her belongings to leave, Lisa knocked gently on the doorframe. "Do you have a moment?" she asked shyly. "Of course," Victoria replied, gesturing for her to sit. "What's on your mind?" Lisa hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I just wanted to say thank you for believing in me and giving me this opportunity. I won't let you down." Victoria smiled, her eyes softening. "You already haven't, Lisa. Keep doing what you're doing, and you'll go far." With that, Victoria left the hotel, her steps lighter than they had been in weeks. The Luxoria Grand was no longer just a building. It was a symbol of resilience, justice, and hope. And as she drove away, she knew the lessons learned here would ripple outward, shaping the future of Luxoria Hotels and Resorts and perhaps the world beyond. Months passed, and the Luxoria Grand transformed into a shining example of what hospitality could and should be. Under Lisa's leadership, the hotel became a place where employees felt valued and guests felt truly cared for. The changes Victoria had implemented spread like ripples through water, inspiring other Luxoria properties to adopt similar practices. It wasn't just about fixing one hotel, it was about setting a new standard for the entire company. Lisa thrived in her role as interim manager, proving herself more than capable of handling the responsibilities. She worked tirelessly, pouring her heart into every decision she made. Her focus on fairness and inclusivity earned her respect from both staff and guests alike. Employees who had once feared speaking up now approached her with ideas and concerns, knowing they would be heard. Guests praised the warm, welcoming atmosphere, often commenting that the Luxoria Grand felt less like a hotel and more like a second home. Victoria visited regularly, always pleased to see how far the hotel had come. On one such visit, she found Lisa reviewing feedback forms in the lobby. The young woman looked up and smiled when she saw Victoria approaching. "Good morning," Lisa said brightly. "I think you'll like what I'm reading." Victoria took a seat beside her, glancing at the stack of papers. "Let me guess, more happy guests?" Lisa nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. One couple even said this was the best stay they've ever had. They loved the personalized service and attention to detail." "That's wonderful," Victoria replied, her voice filled with pride. "You've done an amazing job here, Lisa. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for better results." Lisa blushed slightly but quickly changed the subject. "What about Ryan? Have you heard anything from him?" Victoria shook her head. "Not much. He's working as a clerk at another hotel now, somewhere far less prestigious. Word is he's keeping a low profile. Whether he's learned his lesson or is just biding his time remains to be seen." Lisa frowned thoughtfully. "Do you think he'll ever change?" Victoria sighed, considering the question. "Some people can grow from their mistakes, while others refuse to see them. Either way, it's not our problem anymore. We've given him a chance to reflect, and that's all we can do." The impact of the Luxoria Grand's transformation extended beyond its walls. News of the hotel's success reached industry publications, earning glowing articles and awards. Competitors began taking notice, realizing that excellence wasn't just about luxury, it was about creating environments where everyone felt respected and valued. Other hotels started adopting similar policies, inspired by Victoria's bold actions. At a global conference for hospitality leaders, Victoria delivered a keynote speech that captivated the audience. Standing on stage, she shared her story. The incident with Ryan, the challenges she faced, and the steps she took to create lasting change. Her message was simple yet powerful. True leadership meant standing up for what was right even when it was difficult. "When we talk about hospitality," she told the crowd, "we're really talking about humanity. Every guest, every employee, every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. It's not just good business, it's the right thing to do." The room erupted in applause, with many attendees rushing to speak with her afterward. Some asked for advice on implementing similar reforms in their own organizations, while others simply wanted to express gratitude. For Victoria, it was validation that her efforts were making a difference, not just within Luxoria hotels and resorts, but across the entire industry. Back at the Luxoria Grand, life continued to improve for everyone involved. Maria, the housekeeper who had endured Ryan's harsh criticism, received a promotion to team supervisor. Her hard work and dedication finally earned the recognition they deserved. Daniel, the concierge who had impressed Victoria with his professionalism, was offered a managerial position at another Luxoria property, a move he eagerly accepted. Even Greg, the resistant senior staff member, began to soften over time. Though he never fully embraced the new policies, he stopped complaining and started contributing more positively. Lisa noticed the shift during a team meeting when Greg offered constructive feedback instead of criticism. It was a small victory, but one that reminded her how far they had come. One evening, as Lisa walked through the lobby, she paused to watch a family checking in. The parents laughed as their children marveled at the chandeliers above, their excitement infectious. Lisa felt a surge of gratitude for Victoria, for the team, and for the opportunity to lead such a remarkable place. In the final weeks of her regular visits, Victoria decided to celebrate the Luxoria Grand's achievements. She hosted a dinner for the staff, inviting everyone from housekeeping to management. The event was held in the hotel's grand ballroom, decorated with flowers and soft lighting. As the employees mingled and enjoyed the meal, Victoria stood to address them. "I want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work and dedication," she began, her voice warm and sincere. "When I first arrived here months ago, I saw a lot of problems, but I also saw potential that has since turned into reality. You've built something incredible, and I'm proud to call you part of the Luxoria family." The room erupted in cheers, with many employees rising to their feet. Lisa wiped away tears as she joined the applause, overwhelmed by the moment. When the noise died down, Victoria raised her glass in a toast. To the Luxoria Grand, to its past, present, and future, may it always stand as a beacon of excellence, kindness, and hope. As the celebration continued, Victoria slipped away quietly, leaving the staff to enjoy themselves. She returned to her suite, gazing out at the city lights one last time. The memory of Ryan's dismissal still lingered, but it no longer carried bitterness. Instead, it served as a reminder of the power of resilience and justice. Sitting at the desk, Victoria opened her laptop and typed a note to Marcus. "The Luxoria Grand is thriving," she wrote. "It's proof that when we confront problems head-on, real change is possible. Let's keep pushing forward, not just here, but everywhere." She closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. The Luxoria Grand had taught her, and countless others, that leadership wasn't just about titles or authority. It was about using your position to uplift others, to create spaces where everyone belonged. And as long as she led Luxoria Hotels and Resorts, that philosophy would guide everything they did. With a final glance at the skyline, Victoria packed her things and left the hotel. The Luxoria Grand was no longer just a building, it was a symbol of progress, equality, and the enduring power of doing what was right.